So we'll see how this goes. If I get some good repartee, I'll stay on all night. But um, you know, if I don't get a lot of back and forth, I'm not gonna stay on long. So the topic is Democrats have a male problem. What do I mean by that? They are hemorrhaging male voters. Um, and they're not even doing anything about it. Their attempts to attract men has been condescending and very sloppy. Like the whole white men for Harris is laughable. Just the name of it is laughable. But when someone in their ranks actually attempted to reach out to disaffected white men, um, they were criticized for it, saying, why should they even try? And that these guys are just entitled and fragile. So, who needs them? And this was coming from both men and women in the Democratic wings. Well, the few men remaining, half of the men, let's be honest, are in the alphabet mob, and the straight ones ha- don't have much balls. Let's be honest. Most red-blooded males aren't voting Democrat, except for like old black men, and I'm gonna get into that in a second. But just strictly speaking, most younger men have moved to the right, and thanks, hot hamburger sandwiches. Yeah, I mean, we can just look at the numbers, guys. Men are moving away from the Democratic Party, and it's the Democratic Party's fault. They have made themselves the party of the minorities. But here's the thing. First of all, white women are neither a numerical minority nor are they a social political minority. They're neither. If you want to talk about a numerical minority, it's actually white men. um, and pushing them away by saying any problems they have in the society that they're just incels, um, losers, they're entitled, and they've been on top for so long. So who cares if they're suffering? Like, how is that a good political strategy? Set aside the fact that that's just completely degenerate, but aside from that, how's that a winning political strategy to say, fuck you guys, because you were at the top for all this time, so who cares if you're suffering now? Who who is in there, like, who are their political strategists telling them this is a good idea? You know what I'm saying? Um, Lydia Loves Fan says underrated. Thank you. Hot Hamburg. He says with glitches and voting machines and mail-in ballot dumps, I just don't know what to believe. Well, so what I'll say about that, bro. Um, so a lot of the people who do mail-in ballots are people who are like voting from like and when people say mail-in ballots, there's two types. Like people lump them all in the same category. You got absentee, like you have the absentee ballots, and then you have the mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots usually done by people within the state who may be like elderly or disabled, so they can't get to their local voting booths, or they're just people who don't want to take the time to go to the booths, even if they may be like fully able. But you also have pre-election voting. That's what I did. I live in Maryland. The first day that they started early voting, I went the first day because I just don't want to be in the crowds on election day tomorrow. So, um, but I don't want to do mail-in ballots because I think often those are actually shuffled and not counted until the last minute, if at all. Sometimes they don't even count all those mail-in ballots, to be honest. Same thing with the absentee ballots, which is usually done by people who live out of state, say like college students living on campus in a different state, or people who are expatriates living, overseas or in the military. A lot of those people do absentee voting. Um, uh, as far as the voting machines and glitches, so okay, so here's another. So when I went to early voting, they did say like the voting machines, there was some sort of problem with them. There was some sort of delay. But what they did, they was like, well, you can either wait 10 to 15 minutes because of the delay with the voting machines, or you could just do a write-in. I mean, you could just do a regular pencil and paper ballot. So that's what I did. I did a pencil and paper ballot, right? The old fashioned one. And then when I was done, they just scanned it into the machines. Like basically, the old fashioned pencil and paper ones are like the little Scantron exams we used to take back in high school and middle school. The Scantron exam. That's basically what it was. So it was funny when the guy was explaining to me how it works, and I was just sitting there smiling because I was like, yeah, I know they did this for us back in grade school, but I didn't say that. I just listened and said, okay, I got it. But I, that's the problem because things are so contentious. Both sides are thinking the other side is going to cheat. Where I do think, for the most part, that most state electors are going to ensure that there's no bullshit going on. Like there has been a few non-citizen voters counted. I mean caught, but they're by and large very far and few between, folks who are non-citizen voters, and they're going to get caught. Even the ones who don't get caught, they're not going to be in enough numbers to change the course of the elections anywhere within the within the country. So I would say feel rest assured wherever you live that that the state electors are going to ensure that things don't get effed up because no one wants civil unrest, regardless of which side you're on, right? Shredder, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, TMNT says Trump or Kamala. Well, I'm not going to tell anyone for whom to vote, but I voted for Trump. And again, I voted 2 weeks ago during early voting here in Maryland. So, um, Hot Hamburg says the problem is that they're encouraging it. I see advertisements for it, how it's so much easier. I get mail about it. You talking about the mail-in ballots? So here's one cool thing about the mail-in ballots because my grandmother did one. And again, it does come in handy because my grandmother's like 85 and she's disabled and she can't drive. So she did a mail-in ballot, and they actually have a website for your mail-in ballot too, so you don't have to actually physically mail it. You can actually do it through their website for your respective state. Because I remember when she first asked me, she was like, Amon, um, she's like, can I do this on your phone? And I was like, Grandma, I said, I don't think they do that. And the funny thing is, she was actually right. Like, so I went on the website and checked it, and I was like, oh, Grandma, I said, yeah, you can do it on the phone. I said, here. She's like, no, that's okay. I already filled out. She's like, I already filled it out on the paper. I was like, all right. So I just took it out to the mailbox and you know, um, and did it that way. But my mother was like, no, don't put it in the mailbox. Let me take it specifically to the post office where they have a place for you to put your mail-in ballots to ensure that it gets to where it's supposed to go. So, uh, Hot Hamburg says early voting is fine. Yeah, I prefer it because I don't want to be in the crowds. The irony was because I did it on the first day that they started early voting in Maryland, they were still like a sort of a crowd. But that was only because, like I said, there was a 10 to 15 minute delay with the voting machines because they said there was some sort of glitch. But again, at least they offered people pen and pencil and paper ballots. So I just did the pencil and paper because I wasn't going to wait an extra 10 to 15 minutes just to use a machine. So I don't know what soda pop is referring to. I don't know if that's some sort of joke. Hot Hamburg says I did absentee ballot when I was working as a contractor for the Department of Defense in Afghanistan. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of so if you're in the military, if you're a DoD employee or contractor or State Department as well, those sort of folks or expats living overseas, as I was and I will be again. Um, you know, the absentee comes in handy. Let me change my chat filter, guys, so I can make sure I'm getting all my messages. Shredder says, well, you already asked me that. Zed said, "What's up, man? What's up, Zed?" Um, but yeah, so getting back to to what I was saying, Democrats have a male problem. Like they're condescending to men. For the longest time, they've told white men that they're the problem in society, and I mean, it's not a joke. I took a feminist class. It was an elective, but it was for my major, psychology. It was actually uh, feminist psychology. I got an A. so for all so despite being red pill and voting for Trump and all this sort of stuff, hey, I understand feminism. I got an A in feminist psychology. I'm not lying. I still have the textbook from that class too. But I swear, like I used to joke with other folks in the class. I was like, I swear, when we get these multiple choice exams, guys, I was like, if it says who caused this and it says the white straight male, that's probably the answer. And everyone started laughing because we knew that that wasn't far from the that wasn't far from the truth on those multiple choice exams. It usually was the white or Eurocentric male or something like that of some like that was usually the answer to any question on the exam. But no, it was actually a genuinely fun class. Um, what's up, Moonlit Fern? What's up, bro? Um, says I just saw a survey on how many men versus women vote, and there are more women voting than men, but the polls are tied, even though more women are voting. Yeah, so I've seen that there are more women voting because so I'm getting you're actually jumping ahead of what I was about to say, Zed, but thanks anyway. So a part of the problem with men leaving not voting Democrat is also there's some men who just aren't voting at all, as Zed has just pointed out. There's some men who are just opted out. They're politically apathetic. And that was actually me 2 years ago. Like the reason I've got energy the reasons that energized me actually to vote this election was basically to put a as a big fu to the Democrats whom I found to be very condescending to black men, which is my next topic. They're condescending to men in generally, but they have been just horrid to black men as well. This is why black men and white men are kind of coming together as like, and I'm not even joking. Like, so much so that there are there are liberals now saying that black men are the white men of the black community, as if that's supposed to be an insult. That means we get our shit together. There are more black men that have made it to the middle class than at any point in American history. So, and there's more black men in college than there are in prison. So we are progressing, but to hear them tell it, we're basically becoming black Nazis. But in any case, yeah. So as Zed pointed out, there are some men that are just politically disaffected and aren't voting at all. That is bad. This is just like how I've been saying that they need that red pill folks need to stop telling men not to go to college. I'm also going to say they need to stop telling men that they shouldn't be politically active, and they should still be voting, and they should still be politically active, because when you're in, if you don't voice your concerns, you're no one will like no one's going to care. So, but yeah, I was politically apathetic 2 years ago. I'm still sort of politically apathetic, as so much as in the sense that I'm not an ideologue anymore, and I'm registered as an independent. I haven't chosen any party for the last 16 years. Um, but like I said, the Democrats pushed them out. When there were a bunch of men that were excited on the left, they insulted them, like, because a lot of them were excited for Bernie, and they insulted him, calling them Bernie Bros, saying these are just a bunch of angry white men who are just the same angry white men who would vote for Trump. Um, what lessons are like they're missing something here. If these are the same folks who would vote for Trump, don't you think that's a good idea to run that man against him? You didn't think they didn't realize that was a good idea? Two populist candidates. The problem is we have a neoliberal establishment, and their candidates are basically bought and sold by the same donor class, whether they're Republican or Democrat. The donor class owns them both. Trump used to be part of the donor class. He donated to both Republicans and Democrats when he, you know, when the Clintons were running back in the 90s. He donated to Bill Clinton. When Republicans were running, he donated it to them. So he was part of the very donor class. This is why people like him, because he can't be bought. He is a billionaire himself. He is part of the donor class that controls the other candidates. So whether you consider him a true populist or not, he's he's not bought and sold for like all these other candidates. And that's one of the reasons they hate him. You can say it's about his rhetoric and all this other stuff. Basically, the establishment doesn't like him because they can't control him. And that was basically the same reason they didn't like Bernie. Bernie ran a successful campaign just off of grassroots campaigns and donations. He never took any corporate PAC money. Shit, when Trump was in office, he donated his presidential salary. I bet you people don't remember that shit. He was donating his presidential salary when he was in office. Um, but let me get back to the comments. What's Hey, what's going on, Moonlit? What's up, Black Death Gaming? He says, "Evening, sir." He says, "Seriously, what the f is that even supposed to mean? These liberals are insane. They clearly are. Like, their strategists are doing a horrible job. Like, they think they can appeal to everyone who isn't a white male, and then they're alienating black males as well. Because I'm about to get into that next." uh, Black Death Gaming says, "Anyway, to manipulate, but it ain't working." Zed says, "Black and white men coming together with a common enemy. This is tribalism, right?" Mm, Not exactly. Tribalism would be us remaining at loggerheads with each other, but we but we're coming together as both a gender and a social political group because they're ostracizing us for the fact that we refuse to vote against our interests. As I was telling a friend yesterday, anyone who votes against their interests is irrational, regardless of whom they are. So to to insult men, whether you're talking about white men who are rich, white men who are poor, black men who are rich, black men who are poor, to tell people to gaslight people for voting for their interests is is absurd because to vote against your interests would be patently irrational. And they want men to vote against their interests, which is patently irrational. If you want them to vote for you, you have to offer them something in their interest, and they refuse to do so. They think that offering white men anything to vote for them is basically catering to people who are already very entitled, which is not the case. The majority of poor people in the country are white. So that's because they are the numerical majority in the country, one. But two, most white people don't live in luxury across the country. Like, that's only in pocketed parts of the country where they live in very, luxurious conditions. Like here in the Washington Beltway. Um, he said not in a bad way. Well, tribalism usually has a pejorative term towards that, so it, it, I get what you're trying to say, but yeah. Mola says couldn't have said it better. He said not the left, the far left, and how they treat men of all race, natives included. Oh, don't get me started with natives. Like, I've seen a lot of natives who are like kind of conservative or Republican. There's one guy on Twitter though. He's a very like left leaning guy. This I think he calls himself the Lakota guy or something like that. He's very left leaning, but he is not the majority as far as I know. Uh, Black Death says tomorrow's going to be insane. He said bring a snack for the line. Well, luckily I did early voting, so I'm not going to be out in those lines. I refuse. I can't do it. I've done early voting for the past 6 years, so yeah. Says I believe the meaning of being a Democrat has shifted since they've assumed spots in the government. The meaning hasn't changed, but their positions have changed. Uh, Black Death says plus Trump is king of the mad lads. Zed says corruption has no preference. That's true. Moonlit says headbutt the like button. Share with friends. Subscribe if you enjoy intelligent conversations. Super chat is at the bottom right of your screen to show community love and keep this going. Appreciate it. Moonlit Black Death Gamer says in Planet of the Apes, Caesar said stronger together. Facts. It's also a old Native American thing. It was talked about during colonial times when the Americans thought that the 13 colonies coming together as a union, as a confederacy, they got that idea from the Iroquois Confederacy. Well, the 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 Europeans called them the Iroquois or Iroquois, but they referred to themselves as the Haudenosaunee. And the Haudenosaunee came together, all these different tribes to form one confederacy, and they had a saying like, you take one arrow, you can snap it, but you take you take a quiver of arrows and it's unbreakable. And that idea spread to the Americans. There's like, as individual colonies, the British Empire can break us, but together we're unbreakable. So, words of wisdom. But yeah, so guys are guys are coming together of all races. Like, there's a bunch of Latinos supporting Trump as well. Again, Democrats pandering is not working, and it's not going to work on Latinos because they're the ones who are the most upset about illegal immigration because it hurts them. It's insulting to the guy who came here, who sweat and toiled to get to America, did everything the right way to come here, get his work visa or whatever, you know, got his green card, took his citizenship test, eventually became a naturalized citizen, just for a bunch of guys to sneak across the border, do everything the wrong way, even get released from prison or mental institutions, and get rewarded $5,000 in food benefits, $5,000 in cash benefits, and free housing. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. I did everything the right way and I had to struggle to get here, and they can just sneak across the border and be given free benefits. This is why Latinos are for Trump because they're more pissed about that than we are. So, um, there's a censorship on the Democratic side sounds almost unreal. Yeah, this is why I'm no longer progressive. Zed, like, I would have never thought there's people on the left who are attacking freedoms, First Amendment freedoms. Like the the very people who are supposed to be the ones in defense of the First Amendment and of all and of democracy are the ones who are the least concerned about using authoritarian tactics to make sure their side wins. Fuck freedom of speech if you hurt someone's feelings who's in the alphabet mob. Fuck your freedom of speech if you say something that doesn't congeal with fourth wave feminism. Like, nah. Like, I mean, it went so far that during the Biden administration 2 years ago, they wanted to set up a department of misinformation. A department of misinformation. And I'm not lying, it would have been under Homeland Security. That is the most Orwellian thing I've ever heard. Do we really want the government? And I don't care which political side we're talking about, Republican or Democrat. Do you really want the government deciding what is misinformation and what isn't? I mean, just what, 400 years ago, to say that black people had equal intelligence to white people, that would have been misinformation. So we really don't want any side, the federal government deciding what is misinformation and what isn't. And I don't care which political side of the spectrum it comes on, but the fact that the left was supposed to do that, the left has always been supposed to be known for the folks who defended First Amendment rights, right? That's why I was a progressive. And that's why now I just say I'm a classical liberal in the sense of the thinkers coming out of the European Enlightenment, the European Enlightenment and the Age of Reason, people like John Locke, John Stuart Mill, Adam Smith, David Hume, George Berkeley, um, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Voltaire, many others. Like, it's it's insane to me that the left now considers people who want to defend freedom of speech as conservative. So be it. I consider myself a classical liberal, but if they call me a conservative, I really don't care because, as far as I'm concerned, they're the ones um, who who have reneged on their political virtues. So, I mean, because as far as classical liberalism is concerned, the virtues of classical liberalism as opposed to American liberalism and progressivism is that classical liberalism had the virtues of freedom of speech, you know, economic freedom, political freedom, religious freedom, um, you know, per, you know, individualism, reason, the pursuit of reason, and democracy. So, this as men are being turned into women, and I fear my future children will be affected. How does a smaller group of people have so much influence? Money and politics. That's what I said. The donor class, the neoliberal establishment. So, Agatha says, "Good night, sir." And good night, Agatha. Hope you're doing all right. Get ready for your. You might want to make some coffee tomorrow. Well, I think it's tomorrow already, but you might want to make some coffee for that long line you're gonna be standing in since you're in New York. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a long line. So I told you to do early voting, but I get it. You want to do it with your friends, so that's cool. Zed says money. Yeah, money. Definitely money. When I'm talking about the donor class, I'm talking about multimillionaires and billionaires. These folks can have outsized influences on politics, and this was actually made a part of how our government was supposed to be run. It was purposely, when I read the old papers from like the Federalists and stuff like that, um, the founding some of the founding fathers wanted special interests to have a a a grip on how government is run because they thought that individuals may not be the most rational when it comes to making political decisions, but people who come together in special interest groups would work together to further their own agenda through through legal means. And that's how we would get progress over time, in politics and government. That may have been a mistake, especially now that it can be done just through sheer amounts of money. That's not exactly what the founding fathers had in mind, was just pushing sheer amounts of money to influence people. But they couldn't foresee everything. Black Death says in America by Charles Daniel says it all. Excuse me. Need some water. Black Death says because we all stick together and you can take that to the bank. And that's the Cowboys with the hippies and the rebels and the Yanks. Folk fans say subscribe to you. Thank you. I appreciate it, brother. Wyatt says respect. Appreciate that as well. Black Death says the ministry of truth and the ministry of love. By the way, if you guys have never read 1984, it is a well recommended read. So it's not a thick it's not a thick novel. It's very readable, and even though it was written like 70 years ago, it still holds pretty prescient today. Or if you don't want to read the book, there are like several different versions, several movie like there's several different versions of the movie made based on the book, so you can do that. Or there's Animal Farm, which is sort of like a more lighthearted version of 1984, also written by George Orwell, where this time it's animals and they're becoming anthropomorphic over time. um, that's a good read as well. Um, I would but I would recommend either Animal Farm or 1984. 1984 is the more grown up version. Animal Farm is basically like a more lighthearted version of 1984, where it takes some of uh, the gloom and doom out of it by using like talking animals instead. But trust me, it gets when you get at the core of Animal Farm, it's just as bad as 1984, if not worse in some ways. But I'm not gonna say why because it would spoil the end of the book. Black Death says the Overton window moved and then some kid threw a brick through it, so we don't have to worry about the labels anymore. We just have to be the ones that want to build the buildings and guard the gate. I guess it is tomorrow. Yes, we're carrying coffee and donuts. That's cool. By the way, did you and yeah, you don't have to tell me right now, but did you and Officer Lumen get something sparked with as far as your sister is concerned? Because I'm thinking, you know, if so, that's good stuff. Zed says I've seen videos on YouTube of how CNN and other big news networks will repeatedly lie to people and tell them to vote for a liar that has been proven to be a liar that is like a reality show. I won't go that far. So the problem is with YouTube, information you can get here is very unreliable. I don't know because I don't know where you're getting that from. I'll say CNN doesn't always put out factual information. That, of course, that you know that happens to be a fact, but that's a fact of all news. This is why people don't trust mainstream like legacy media anymore because it is managed by both government and corporate, you know, people like sources like managing of the news through corporate and government um, organizations is not a new thing. If if anything, it's better today than it was like 50, 60 years ago because back then you only had news from three different sources: ABC, NBC, CBS. Everyone basically got their news from the same three sources. Now you have like a plethora of different places on from which you can get your news. The problem is not all those places are the best, and not everyone knows to how to discern good from bad information. Unfortunately, Jesse says, "We the people." That's what's up. E pluribus unum, from one to many. Um, this is the amount of dishonest people frustrates me to my core. Shouldn't take it more per. You shouldn't take it too personally. Like, if anything, if you've watched Game of Thrones, you should realize you shouldn't take to heart what they're doing. Let them play their Game of Thrones. Don't get caught up in their bullshit. Agnes says, "No, I think he's shy." You talking about Lumen? Hmm. I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you saw I was trying to put in some work here between you guys so that you could maybe get your sister's info to him or whatever, or he could get his info to you to give to your sister, something like that. Because I know he has the wherewithal to travel. So Zed says, where should I get reliable news? Well, that's the thing. You shouldn't get your news from one source. Zed. That's kind of where what I'm intimating, is that because we have a plethora of different sources for news nowadays, we shouldn't get it all from one source. Like for me, so you know, based on my views on a particular issue, people will make assumptions of my ideology. On certain issues, people may think I'm liberal. On other issues, people may think I'm conservative. On some issues, people may not be able to discern what I am. Um, and it comes from the fact that I get my sources of news from all sides of the spectrum. That way, and the reason being is because each side has information that the other side doesn't show. So I watch so I might watch a news segment online from CNN and also from but then I'll watch something from Fox News, then I'll watch something or read something from Daily Wire or Blaze TV or The Young Turks or Rising the Hill, or for was it uh, Bloomberg News or Forbes Breaking News, um, or from different podcasters. So so I have the whole so basically I have the whole spread covered because I'm not just getting my news from just one source, and I'm not getting it just from one political side. I'm not getting it all just from the conservative side. I'm not all getting it just from the liberal side. I'm not getting it all from the libertarian side. I'm not getting it all from the progressive side. I'm hitting every switch. So and from that, when I see conflicting information coming from these different places, I can then use my own critical thinking skills and say, well, this doesn't add up what they're saying here, but what these guys are saying seems more reasonable because they can back theirs up with better evidence. So that's what I do. I don't get my news from just one source. I I view a lot of different things, and from that I'm always well versed on political topics because I get it from so many different sources. That's what I would encourage people to do. Don't get your news just from one source. If you watch CNN, sometimes watch Fox News. If you watch Fox News, sometimes watch CNN or even the Young Turks, because you'll be surprised. Because sometimes Anna Kasparian doesn't agree with the progressives on her side, whereas Chink Uger, from the Young Turks, he says a whole bunch of crazy shit that you may not always want to listen to. So, um, like I said, I get my that's what I would say. Don't use just one source of information. If most of your news is coming from the left, you need a source from the right. If you get all your if you get all your news from the right, say like Fox News and Newsmax, Blaze TV, Daily Wire, you need something on the left to counterbalance that. Agnes said, I think he said he's not ready to date. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I mean, but what's up with your sister? I have other friends. I don't know if you see my videos when I'm in the car with my buddy. He's like about to finish his doctorate. He works. Well, I can't say where he works because I'll just say he has a very high level security clearance. But he travels and you know he loves black women. So if you want to get that information, if she's looking for someone, you know, I can broker that that exchange between them. This is okay. I see. Do my own research and piece it together. Yeah. So the thing is, you also got to have critical thinking skills because that's the crux of any. This is the crux of anything where you talk about politics, religion, science, current events. You have to have critical thinking skills, and that term is so overused. But the critical thinking skills comes through being able to assess the evidence for and against a claim. Okay, and part of that means you also have to know how to reach. You need to know how to discern credible expertise. Okay, unless that's a field in which you are yourself already got some good background knowledge, right? But if it's not something in which you yourself have background knowledge, then you need to ascertain the expertise, the expertise of people within those fields that you're trying to assess information. One of the things you need to do to help people do that is, like I said, I'm a huge advocate that people should learn baby logic. We call it baby logic, but like basically the fundamental principles of logic. People need to learn that both formal and informal. People need that, and then again, they need to know when it comes to critical thinking skills. Critical thinking skills is pretty much just like I would call it careful common sense. That's basically what it is. Basically, looking for evidence to support something. Like if somebody tells you something, you don't just take it, at face value. You see, well, is there any evidence for this thing? Like the first steps for that could be just Googling things. And I'm not, and then I don't mean Wikipedia. Problem with Googling things is again, some people have no internet research skills, even though we were all taught these things back in high school or middle school or even college, whatever. We should have some modicum of internet research skills, but a lot of us don't. We just start with Google and end with Google. Problem is with Google is an algorithm is based is an algorithmic based uh, search engine. It's not based on giving you the best information. Based is algorithm is based on getting you what lands on the most, you know, the most web portals or whatever. So, and because of that, you can Google anything and find support for any claim. That's sort of the problem. No matter how left-brained it is, um, well, I should say harebrained rather. No matter how harebrained something is, you can find something to support it on Google. So that's sort of the problem of just Googling. When people say they did their research and all they did was Google something, that's not good enough. Here's how. So I'm gonna give you guys how to do this. All right. Well, at least I'm gonna give you a very dumbed down version of how to do this. Okay. So if you're looking up something on Google to see if it's true or not, look up something that's a look up also. So look, you gotta look it up twice. First, you gotta look up everything that says it supports X, Y, or Z. Then you gotta look up everything that goes against X, Y, or Z and see where you can get where are you getting the most hits for it. Of course, this can be influenced by certain things as well, by certain biases of Google itself. But I don't want to go that deep down the rabbit hole today. I'll just say for the nuts that if you want to Google something and like weigh the evidence for and against something. So say you want to know uh, does fluoride cause cancer, right? You'll you'll Google does fluoride cause cancer, and you'll get all the hits for that, right? Then after that, maybe save that search, and then type in um, um, does fluoride doesn't cause cancer, right? And see all the hits that come up for that. and you can weigh all, and then you can look at the information, and then don't just look at the number of hits um, for each one. Also look at the quality of the links that come up. Like, does the stuff that come up for and against, does it say like the Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, medical center, or does it say weird stuff like um, the 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 Harashwami? He says this causes cancer. Like, that's not to be believed. That person isn't a fucking licensed clinically practicing MD. Okay, this is just a quack. But the guy that says this other thing, okay, this is a licensed practicing MD for the Mayo Clinic, and he's been board certified and credentialed oncologist for the last 20 years. This is a credible person, right? So that's what I'm talking about in a nutshell. Sorry that I harped about that for so long. Agnes says I listen to both CNN and Fox. That's smart. She says okay. Says at first I didn't really care, but it slowly got a hold of me. Friends started talking about politics. Then it slowly started popping up on all of my feeds on every social media platform. Yeah, like I'm out today. My friend keeps getting text after text after text about voting. Mind you, he and I both went to vote 2 weeks ago, early voting. So he's already tired of it. And I was like, man, I was telling him, I was like, I don't really get texts. I was like, I've been getting a ton of emails. I said, but I haven't been getting texts. And that's even like, even when and you would think, oh, well, I turned my Wi-Fi off, but it's not even that. Cause like when I'm in Wi-Fi, which is through most of the day, I have gotten no text. And I was like, and I told him, I said, you must have opted in into something. That's why you're getting all these texts. I said, I have not gotten a single political text. I was like, I've gotten a ton of emails, but I was like, most of my political emails I send to I have them routed to my spam folder. So, uh, Dutch Milk says, well, you must admit whoever is president, at least it's not Kevin Ditas, Evan Stinkmeister Rossman, or Jordan Hakola. Do you agree? Or Zachary Monroe? I have no idea whom you're even. I I don't know if you're being funny or those are like I, I don't know what you're talking about. Those don't even sound like American people. Like who are these folks? Like I don't know if you roasted me. If so, I don't. It flew right over my head. But I've not heard of one of these people. I'm got unless these are all unless these are all like lesser known third party candidates. I have no idea. But on my ballot, the only people that came up besides Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, there was the Libertarian candidate, there was Jill Stein, and then there was RFK Jr. Those were the only like people that you could vote on unless you wrote in a name. So but I haven't heard of any of those folks. I'm sorry. So I don't know if you were trolling or if those are genuine people in America because I haven't heard of not one of them. Says just to be clear, my liar comment from earlier pertained to Kamala. She blatantly lies to get an emotional reaction out of people to vote for her. Well, again, like I said, I'm going to be fair, Zed, and I'm going to say they all lie. I haven't, they all lie. Like, it would be hard to genuinely be efficient in politics at, at, at this level of the game without lying, whether intentional or not. I, they all lie. So I'll be fair because people will come in here and say, well, Trump always lies. And I'm like, okay, but what about the times they said Kamala lied? So I'm going to be fair as well and say, well, he's lied too. But again, it's almost by necessity at this level of the game because people and the reason for that It's not the politicians, it's us. People don't want to hear the truth. So politicians have to lie to them. If people if people were willing to be rational individuals and decide things based on policies and their and their and their views on these candidates, then they wouldn't have to lie. Then these candidates wouldn't have to lie to them. But candidates have been lying to people since since the, since we've had nation states because a lot of people don't want to hear the truth. This is the whole point of the Matrix with the blue pill versus red pill thing. Not everyone can handle honesty. Dutch Milk says they are mean people who don't deserve to live at Hilton East assisted living. So I have no idea what you're talking about, bro. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. But all right, so like I said, like a half an hour ago, I said I'm going to get into the black men thing too, because like I said, the, the Democrats have alienated men generally across the board. I was like, first of all, they've pretty much said that all white men are just fragile or entitled. And it's like, you can't be both. You can't be saying these are fragile men on one, you know, on one end, and then saying they're all fascist Nazis on the other end. Like, they can't be both. I mean, you could try to say they're both, but that's I like to see you square that circle. So, and then, like I said, with other men who are moving away from Democrats, they have castigated them too. Like you have that monkey Barack Obama going out trying to castigate black men. First of all, Barack Obama is not even black to be sitting there talking down to other black men, and I'll stand on that fully. And no disrespect to my African brothers here, but Barack Obama's not black. His mother was white and his father was a Kenyan immigrant. First of all, most black Americans are descended from West African people. Barack Obama's father was from Kenya, East Africa. Okay. Two, after he divorced with the mom, he went back to Africa. He never became a legal citizen. Third, Obama spent his whole life in Hawaii and Indonesia. He was never part of the black community, the black American community. The first time he actually dealt with black people was when he became a community activist in Chicago for 2 years, and that was basically just to pad his CV so he could apply to Harvard Law. And I'm pretty sure I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure the first black woman he dated was Michael Obama. So he's not even black to be sitting there talking to other black men saying, "Well, it seems to me that some of you have a problem voting for Kamala Harris, unlike the people who voted for me. And I hear some of you coming up with all these sort of reasons why, when I think really it's because you don't want to vote for a woman, and I have a problem with that. Like, nigga, shut the fuck up. Like, you're not even black. Shut your monkey ass up. You were in the he was in office for 8 years and did not do one single fucking thing for black people. He did some stuff for gay people, cool, whatever. And you know, he did his little Affordable Health Care Act, cool. But none of the things he did while in office was directly for black people. And when he was even asked about it once, he was like, "Well, I'm not the black president. I'm the president of all America." All right, cool. Stand on that. But every time he needed political support, his ass came shucking and jiving to some little uh, black church in Atlanta to garner support from his black constituency. Man, fuck him. And then Spike Lee recently came out and was talking some shit too, saying black men need to vote for her. Like, shut the fuck up, Spike Lee. You haven't done a relevant movie in over 30 years. Like, the last relevant movie he did was Malcolm X. Shut up. um, fucking AIDS boy, Magic Johnson was out there saying some bullshit too. Fuck Magic Johnson, dude. You got AIDS from fucking dudes back in the 80s. Let's be real. No one was catching AIDS back then from straight sex in the 80s. Almost every case of it came from either gay male sex or needles in the 80s. But they couldn't say that. That's why they didn't want to call it the gay man's disease back in the early 80s, because they knew it would cause ostracism. It would cause them to be more ostracized in society than they already were at the time. So they lied to people saying that, oh, you can get this through straight sex too. I was like, yes, you can, but it's very statistically unlikely. But that's impolitic to say. Moving on. But yeah, to, so then, Harris tried to come up with her whole agenda for black men, and then later, a week later, say, well, actually, this is for all Americans. Then it wasn't really for black men. You're just like you were just paying us lip service. Um, and then you had these all these little black females on all these little social media platforms sitting there trying to dog out black men, saying, "Yeah, y'all need to get y'all shit together and vote." Like that, the little silly bitch on the View, Sunny Hostin, called black men ridiculous who weren't, who were voting Trump. How are they ridiculous? First of all, bitch, you can't, you're not in no position to be calling black men ridiculous. You're not even black. You're Puerto Rican. You're fucking tether, just like Obama. He's a tether. Harris, she's another fucking tether. That little chick on MSNBC, Joy Reid, she's another fucking tether. She's from the Congo. She's not black American. And when I say black American for you folks, I want to be very clear. Black Americans are a distinct group from African immigrants, Caribbean immigrants, and Afro Latino immigrants. Foundational black Americans have been here since 1619 and have and are the American descendants of slavery. These folks came here voluntarily as immigrants. We are not them. They are not like us. So, but again, I love my African brothers. I love my Caribbean brothers. But when they come here talking shit, that's when they're a tether. That's why Obama's a tether. Harris is a tether. Joy Reid's a tether. Fucking Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, he's a fucking tether. Found that out. I was surprised, but well, actually, I shouldn't be surprised because he lied about so many other things. He committed stolen valor. He lied about being a Baltimore native when his bitch ass was grew up in the Bronx. Like, anyway, let me get back to the comments. Um, Margarita Martinex says King Pelly. Are you talking about the soccer player? I don't know what you're talking about. Zen says your points are equitable. He said, I don't know you separate yourself from all of this chaos. This is a skill I need to learn. It's called epistemic well, I just made it up. No, it's just emotional detachment. Like, you can't take this stuff seriously. Well, I mean, you can take it seriously, but not to the point where it affects your emotional or mental well-being. Like, I don't know. This all of this stuff to me is academic. Um, some random guy says, "Preach, brother, preach." Thank you. He said he's the first gay president of the United States. Yeah, I mean, for all we know, I mean, there are allegations out there that Obama was a he was a how do I put it so I won't get flagged by the algorithm. He was a Peter Puffer. John Lazy says, "Bro, Kevin Ditas hates the U.S." Like, guys, I really don't know who he is because I'm on live with you. I can't look him up. He said this country sucks. I mean, a lot of us say this country sucks, but I mean, for what reason? Like, I might say the country sucks at some points, but that's because I hate the government. I love the country, but I hate the government. I'm a patriot. Like, I've served my country in the military. I tried to run for office once in um, College Park, Maryland. But are there some things I hate about the country? Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I hate our educational system. Uh, I hate our legal system. I hate our state of politics right now. So, but I don't know what he's saying as far as he hates the country. I don't know. Some people just, yeah. John says, and he would rather live in the ocean. Oh, well, he sounds like an interesting person, not. Some random guy says they may have something on Spike Lee for him to say that like most of these Hollywood uh, to say that like most of these Hollywood elites. That's funny too because I actually put up a community tab today, actually making fun of that the fact that some of these Hollywood elites are on Team Harris, and I was saying these are all the Diddy crats because a lot of these Hollywood elites have partied with Diddy at some point, like people like LeBron James, Usher, Pink, uh, Ashton Kutcher. Like some of these people are scared shitless about being revealed in this Diddy case. So, some random guy says they may have something on Magic Johnson as well for him to speak out against Trump. I don't remember. So I don't even remember Johnson ever being for Trump in any back in 2016 or 2020 either. He's just falling in line because, like I said, I think he was a rump ranger back in the 80s. I seriously do. Just I'm a numbers guy. If if you look like I read whatever the book was from. I don't know if people remember that HBO special and the band played on and it was based off of a book. And I think I read that book like about 50, about 16 years ago or so. I don't know if it was the book from which the movie and the band played on was, or it was something else related to it. But it was talking about like the origins of AIDS and how it was treated in the 80s. And look, back then, most cases of it were through gay male sex, and a lot of it spread from sex tourism of affluent males, mostly white males, mostly affluent white males, going overseas for sex tourism in places like Haiti, having sex with men, and then coming back with HIV here, and then the this the just degeneracy of the homosexual community at the time. Like they would have like whole like gay like gay spas where they were just having orgies en masse. That's what spread the fucking disease so rapidly through that community. And you know, when this became a governmental issue, they didn't want this to be seen as just the gay disease, even though it had affected their community more than anywhere else. It started spreading into the heterosexual community because a lot of these men were on the down low, sleeping with men and women. The women weren't privy to the fact that some of these men were also sleeping with men, and they spread the disease into the heterosexual community. But by and large, it was people within the homosexual community that were afflicted with the disease. So this is why I'm pretty sure that Magic Johnson got it through gay sex at the time back in the 80s, because he wasn't doing he wasn't shooting up dope, which was like the second um, most likely way to get it. It was either unprotected male on male sex or shooting up dirty needles. That's it. Heterosexual sex was very unlikely at the time to cause it. You might get other STIs through heterosexual sex, like like herpes, syphilis, chlamydia, gonorrhea, uh, HPV, those sorts of things, crabs. But um, HIV was mostly within the gay community. So that's probably how Magic got it. So, of course, anyone who's going to be supporting the alphabet community, I'm pretty sure Magic will be in favor of. Because he, like I said, I'm pretty sure back in the 80s, he was a rump ranger before he met Cookie. I mean, look at his son. His son is in that lifestyle too. And I'm just going to say this. I know people are going to disagree, but again, I'm putting on my behavioral research cap here. A, a fact that some people don't know in behavioral science is that what we know from behavioral genetics is that all traits, all human traits, whether psychological or physical, all human traits are partly hereditary. All right, so moving on. uh, Zed says, I hate the view. Their show is nothing but gossip. Because, yeah, it's made for middle. Zed, this show is literally just designed for middle aged women. Because my mom watches it, my grandmother watches it. Like this is this like even young women don't really watch this shit. It's specifically middle aged and elderly women who watch that bullshit because all they do is cluck cluck cluck. Like some random guy says, I cannot stand the View at all. He said ABC is losing their viewership. I believe, in my opinion, that we won't see the View last year, no more than 2 years. I don't know. Well, I think it's going to last some random guy just because it's not for us. It's again, it's for middle aged women. Middle and I'll be even more specific. It's for middle class, middle aged women because that is such a large viewership. They're the ones that are going to watch it. So it's they're going to they know their target audience. What's weird about that is that being that that's their target audience, I don't know why the the political opinions they put on that show should have any sort of should be taken with any like sort of like gravity whatsoever outside of their own target audience because the stuff they says is stupid. Whoopi Goldberg is a comedian. Her fucking real name isn't even Whoopi Goldberg. She literally gave herself that name, that stage name, when she was a stand-up comedian, so that she could get more opportunities to be on stage. Because the name sound like she's a Jewish woman, but she has a regular black woman's name. It's like I forgot her real name, Karen or something like that. Karina, something. But she's a dumb bitch. And for her talking all this bullshit, uh, she made she people forget she used to work for Trump, but she be talking so much. She talks so much trash about that man, and they want you to believe this guy's a racist, even if he is. Even if he is, because I mean he's 79. What I don't know any old white man that doesn't have some sort of racist beliefs. But on the other side of the coin, I don't know any old black men that don't have racist beliefs. Old people have racist beliefs. I don't care what race they are. An old Asian person is gonna be racist. An old Spanish person is gonna be racist. An old Native person is gonna be racist. An old white person is gonna be racist. An old black person is gonna be racist. They hold racist beliefs. Anyway, in his personal in his personal life, he's done some pretty cool things before he was in office for black people. People don't know that he supported and funded Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign back in the 80s. Do they know that? Probably not, because it's not something you'll hear on mainstream news, but it can be instantly fact checked. You can look it up through Snopes.com, which is probably the best source for fact checking. You can't trust fact checker through Politico because they are liberally biased. Um, but Snopes is way more reliable. Or if you only want to go to Snopes, you can go to like, Associated Press or Reuters, BBC News, whatever you want to get it from. It'll verify it. He supported and funded the Jesse Jackson campaign in the 80s. When Nelson Mandela was released in 1990, he personally chartered a private plane to bring Nelson Mandela to the United States. When Jennifer Hudson's family lost their home back during, I think, with the Katrina hurricane or whatever, he put them all up in his hotels free of charge. Not to mention, he was on multiple like sitcoms and rap songs back in like the 90s. Like until he said, until he, until 2014, when he talked badly about Obama and came up and supported the birther conspiracy, black people used to love Trump. They watched him on The Apprentice. Like I said, he was on shows like The Fresh Prince of Bel Air. He was in rap songs with like, well, Diddy, but we won't go there. But like Diddy was only like Mace and some other rappers. Like black people used to like that guy. Um, he even said, he said he liked Diddy when one of his former assistants came on his show on The Apprentice. He's like, hey, he's a friend of mine. That doesn't mean he was going to Diddy parties though. Although that would be funny as hell. I mean, because Martha Stewart went to some of his parties, but whatever. Um, what else? I mean, I can name other things. Well, unlike again, Obama did nothing for black people while in office. When Trump was in office, he gave permanent funding to HBCUs, which is historically black colleges and universities, because year after year, usually these collective schools would have to beg the government for for funding for their institutions. He gave them permanent funding. He set up the First Step Act to help people coming out of prison who overwhelmingly were black men. He also gave funding to many impoverished communities through, federal funding. One of those places was in Baltimore, even though people were mad because he called Baltimore a shithole. But I'm sorry, I live in Baltimore. Baltimore is a shithole. he, but he gave a lot of inner city communities across the country's government funding when he was in office. People don't know about that. I know about that because I know personally the funding that Baltimore received when he was in office. So yeah. Anyway, let me get back to the comments. Um, America Zed says America needs more people with similar viewpoints to you in Congress. I wonder what that would do to the country. Well, here's the thing: there probably are people who share my viewpoints in Congress. But that doesn't mean they're going to openly share those views. You gotta understand, having certain views and being public about them are two different things. We don't know Often we don't know where a politician truly stands other than through their record for what what legislature they've supported and what legislature they didn't support. And even that may not be a reliable indicator of their own like viewpoints, because they may support or not support certain legislature or agendas or other candidates strictly on pragmatic basis. So, right. So I really I can't get into the headspace of what people actually believe or not. That gets into a whole realm of psychology that you know is not the topic for today. But like I said, the Democrats have chased men from their party, and the irony of them either trying to insult these men for not being a part of them anymore, or doing such a horrible job at trying to get them back is just hilarious. Like they have gotten so desperate now that literally the people from the Harris campaign are telling men, "Hey, go ahead and secretly vote for Harris. No one, you don't have to tell anyone." I'm like, are y'all really that hard up for male voters? They're just saying, "Hey guys, you can secretly vote for Harris and no one will know." And I'm not joking. You guys, again, when I talk my shit, guys, you can fact check me on it. Like they're literally telling men, "Hey, you can secretly vote for Harris and no one will know," because they know for a lot of like red-blooded males, a lot of us are not interested in her, and amongst other men, we all see it as sort of like effeminate to want to support her because again, her agenda has her agenda does nothing for men, straight men. It does nothing for straight men. This is Democrats don't understand men. I don't know if they don't understand or they just don't care. It could be both. But I would say this, their strategists are horrible. Whoever they have working as their strategist, this is why you don't want DEI hiring. When you get DEI hiring, you don't get the best of the best. You get idiots. Like, because the Democratic strategists are stupid. Like, honestly, it shouldn't even, the election shouldn't even be this close. If they knew what they were doing, they would have the advantage over Trump. But they don't know what they're doing. And part of that's because they've chased away most of the men. If they had more men within their with within their within their contingency, the election wouldn't even be close. They're counting on all the minorities and women to make up for the loss of all these males. So this is why it's going to be so close. And again, in the privacy of voting booths, we don't know how people are going to vote because I need this to be re- I need to keep stating this. Hillary lost the election back in 2016 because a lot of white women decided they didn't want her. They voted for Trump instead. But they tried to blame everyone else. They tried to blame Bernie Bros and Bernie Sanders himself, even though they literally fucked him over from getting from winning the Democratic primaries. Fucked him over, but still blamed him for losing. Then they tried to blame Jill Stein in 2016. Um, and they couldn't blame black men back then because we know by the numbers that most of them voted for Hillary. But they're going to try to this time around, even though sad to say, a lot of black men are still going to vote for Harris, this fake black woman. But and by the way, guys, I'm a live stream tomorrow night throughout the throughout the election night. And I'm gonna have the I'm gonna have it up on my screen so I can tell y'all what I'm seeing in real time. But yeah, they Hillary and the DNC tried to blame everyone for her loss other than herself because the fact of the matter was white women failed her. If white women had voted for her in droves, she would have won. She won the popular vote, but she lost the electoral vote because she didn't win in the swing states that she needed to carry the election to get the 270 electoral votes. But guess what? If white women had voted for her, she would have won. But no one blamed them. So, c'est la vie. But on that, guys, I'm about to go. Appreciate you guys rocking with me. Zed, my new followers, appreciate the love. If you haven't already, please give me a like and a subscribe. Share the videos if you can. Um, if you want to show me some support, you can sign up for my memberships. I have a few membership only videos. And guys, the more memberships I get, the more membership only videos I create. And I'll take suggestions. As long as it's nothing, you know, sketchy. But most of the membership only videos up are pertaining to like fitness and martial arts stuff. Um, or you can buy me a coffee, um, or send me a cash app, or send me a super thanks. All any and all of those are appreciated. But if you can't do any of that, a like and a subscribe is perfect. Let me get back to my beautiful Agatha here, because it's been Agatha all along. I don't think she even gets that joke from the Marvel series. She says, "Why do Jill always going to run for president?" Well, because she's a Green Party candidate. The funny thing is, the Green Party in Europe is telling her to step off. I'm not even lying. So they have a European Green Party. They're telling her she needs to step away so that Harris can win. Here's the thing: they always want to blame the third party votes, but what people don't realize is a lot of people who voted for third party candidates, if they didn't have that third party candidate, they probably just wouldn't vote. And this is what people don't understand who are so entrenched in this duopoly of the two party system. They don't realize that if there wasn't these third party options, a lot of people just would refuse to vote. There are a bunch of libertarians out there, so they vote for their libertarian party candidate. People who are far left will vote for the Green Party candidate. People who are ultra conservative will vote for these other third party candidates that's out there, that have, parties, if they're on their ballot within that state, that is. But you know, plus I was mad that the Democrats forced fuck Cornel West. Cornel West is still running, guys, but he has not been in many states. He has not gotten to be on the ballot. He didn't get to be on the ballot here in Maryland, and he didn't get to be on the ballot here in Virginia. But Cornel West is still running. They don't like him because they knew that he would take a lot of the black vote away from the Democratic candidate, because a lot of people like Cornel West. So they've effectively fucked him from being on most of the ballots across the country. So that's another reason I said fuck the Democrats. I literally voted for anyone who was not Democrat or a woman. I'm going to be completely honest. I voted against blue. So not everyone I picked was a Republican. I chose a few libertarian candidates. I chose a libertarian candidate for Maryland senator, for U.S. senator for Maryland, and for the house for House of House of Representatives in Maryland. I also chose a libertarian candidate, but Trump I chose for president. Um, the judges, they were supposedly nonpartisan. So if it wasn't a guy, I didn't say yes. One guy I didn't know anything about him, but his name was James Rhodes. So I was like, oh, okay, so he's Tony Stark's best friend. Vote for him. And I know that sounds completely irrational, but literally there was no information about those judges. Like it just said nonpartisan. It didn't give any of their leanings on how they decided to adjudicate things. So, but Dr. Jill Stein is completely within her right to vote. I mean, to run as the Green Party candidate. If she takes votes away from Harris, too fucking bad for Harris. She should have had a better platform. And that's the same thing I said about Al Gore back in 2000 because they tried to blame Ralph Nader in 2000 from taking votes away from him. I was like, no, if Al Gore had a better platform, he would have won despite Nader running. I mean, look, Bill Clinton won in 1992 despite um, Ross Perot running. Ross Perot almost Ross Perot could have seriously had a serious chance of winning the presidential election back in 1992. He ran as an independent. He was just a rich oil tycoon from Texas. That's literally he was just a rich oil tycoon from Texas, and said he was tired of both parties, and people loved it. The only reason he, but he dropped out of the race. If he stayed in, he had a good chance of winning. But guess what? He was still on the ballot, and he didn't stop Clinton from winning, from beating Bush Sr. And he ran a second time during Clinton's reelection. And guess what? Clinton won again, too. So you can't blame third party candidates. You have to have a stronger platform if you are an establishment candidate. Nader ran again in 2004, but this time they didn't blame him, although they wanted to, for John Kerry not beating Bush in his reelection. Zay says, "See you, man. See you, bro." Agnes says, "Okay, good night." But oh, and by the way, Agnes, like I said, like I said, I can hook your sister up with my homeboy if you want to see if there's a connection there, because I could have swore that you and Lumen were working behind the scenes to set your sister up. I'm disappointed now because I thought y'all had something. I thought y'all had something cooking. I was like, nah, because when y'all stepped, because when y'all stepped away, I was like, nah. I said, dang. I said, I know I got something cooking with y'all too. It's like, dang. But yeah, it's, like I said, I have a homeboy. He travels. He loves black women. So let me know. All right, guys. I'm about to start a new show. Well, not it's not a new show. It's new for me because I never watched it because I was never interested in because of the political environment right now. I'm like, I want to check this out, so I'm gonna start watching The Handmaid's Tale. Especially now I realized the woman on it is the same woman from there was the secretary on Mad Men. Well, she started off as a secretary, then became a copywriter and one of the bosses. But I didn't know that, so I'm gonna check that out. Well, I'm gonna check out the first episode and see if the rest of the series is worth watching because I know they're going into their sixth and final season this year. So a lot of catching up to do. Can't watch anime all the time. But like I said, but if you guys got any questions or comments, I'll give it a few minutes before I go though. And as I do, I'm gonna have some fruit snacks. These are the different ones. These aren't the Funables. These are the Mott's fruit snacks. And all the fruit snacks I get, guys, are the ones that actually have actual like fruit in it. Fruit concentrate, of course, but fruit nonetheless. So I'm getting little micro parts of vitamins. I guess if you eat a whole box, you get a little bit of vitamin in it. But yeah, Agatha, like I said, my emails in the description. My Instagram is in the description. My Facebook's in the description. Don't worry, I'm always very discreet because some of my um some of my moderators, I know them um off here as well. So I'm you know I'm a former frat guy. I know how to be discreet about people's personal identities and so forth because I don't want people divulging my my personal stuff as well. So like I said, if you want to hook your sister up or whatever, I got a homeboy that would be interested, definitely. Because like I said, he travels to the, unlike some of my friends who do travel, they only travel like here in the states or like to like Latin American countries, but he travels to the Far East like I do, so he can definitely get to Taiwan. Like I'm going back to Taipei myself, but I'm married, so I'm bringing the wife with me. And if I wasn't, I'd be trying to get one of those Taiwanese girls. So, but anyway, guys, any questions about what I said? Like why I'm saying the Democrats push males away, how they've basically treated white males as if they're like just the enemy, even though they need them to win. And now how they've pushed black males away, um, although they didn't do it. Unlike white males, like they deliberately push white males away. Black men they've just pushed away just from negligence. Like they've harped on black women so much that they've in effect emasculated the black men that also are part of that black community. So they've been disaffected and moving right as well. And basically every men from every race in America have been moving right and away from the Democrats. So that's their fault. And like I said, whoever these strategists are within the DNC, they need to be fired. To think that you don't need men, particularly white men, as part of your voting block to win elections is fundamentally like wrong-headed. And like I said, if their political strategists think they can win elections just through sheer volumes of minorities, they're mistaken. And it also shows why they have been so strongly in advocacy of illegal immigration here, because they thinking these people will come here and become Democrats. Although most of the people who come here from many of these third world nations tend to be more conservative. Agatha says we need men. Agreed. Just like it's just like it would be absurd for men to say they don't need women in the electorate. Now it would be different if it was like back 300, 400 years ago when women didn't vote. Well, even like I would say like over 100 years ago when women didn't vote, then yes, you wouldn't need women. But because because voting is co-ed, you need both. You you can't have a winning political strategy where you completely abandon one sex. Like that just doesn't make sense. So like I said, I don't know who their strategists are on the Democratic side, but they need to be fired. They're probably all DEI hires. All right, guys, I'm about to tear into these fruit snacks and watch Handmaid Tale. So far, it hasn't seen. Well, I've only watched 15 minutes of it so far, but I haven't seen anything like crazy yet. And I've heard there's like crazy stuff that goes on, but we'll see. I may have watched it as I fall asleep. Um, all right, Agatha. Like I said, if you're interested, hit me up. Let me know if you want if we can make a connection with your sister or not. All right. Oh, by the way, my friend is not my age, in case you're wondering, because he's not my age. But all right, guys, I'm out. If you guys have any other comments or questions, queries, criticisms, or thoughts related to what I was talking about on this broadcast, um, or you're watching this on replay, leave it in the comment section. I'll check it out. Like I say, I usually respond to comments unless it's like either mean spirited or it's just very asinine. Is that she has kids? Oh, are you saying does my friend have kids? No, he doesn't. He doesn't have kids. We're team no kids over here. Well, I'm gonna have kids with my wife, you know, but but yeah, nah, he doesn't have kids, and he's single. Uh, he's working on his doctorate, and I can't say what he does for a living, but he has a high level security clearance. That's all I can say. So, and he travels. But for any personal stuff, like you gotta hit me up, like either DM me on IG or Facebook or email. No, no baby mama drama here. We don't do that over here on this side. On this side of Gotham, we don't do that. uh-uh. Because we wouldn't be able to hang out if he had baby mama drama. He's also a martial arts expert like I am. Well, he's actually, unlike me, he's actually certified in Penchat Salat. Um, I have no certifications, but I have more years of martial arts experience though. But like I said, unless there's anything else, you can hit me up on the IG, this link to this channel, or the Facebook, this link to this channel, or email. Um, because you might want to keep yeah, what's the word? Your yeah, anonymity. I'm sorry, it's late. You might want to keep your if you want to keep your anonymity, you can just email me. But if you don't mind, but if not, you can just hit me up on IG or Facebook. She said, "Okay, tomorrow. See you." All right, great. So good luck with the good luck at the polls tomorrow. I'm sure you're gonna tell me what happened with you and your friends when I go live tomorrow. Because tomorrow I'm gonna go live for election night. I'm gonna be up all night with you guys. Well, not all night, but I'm gonna be up, looking at the elections with you guys. That's what tomorrow's stream is gonna be about. Because it would be crazy to talk about anything else on election night other than the election itself. It'd be like the World Series is going on and I'm talking about bowling. So, all right, bye, Agatha. We'll talk soon. All you other guys, thank you. Holler at me on the comment section if you guys got thoughts on anything we talked about. If you're checking us out on replay, make sure you give me a like and a subscribe, please. Appreciate it. All right, guys, thank you.